Hi, my name is Marlene Seahan, and today is day 68 of the Richmond Public Library's 100 Days RVA Reads, a program promoting PBS and WCVE's The Great American Read. Today I'm at the African Ancestral Burial Ground in Richmond, which is I chose because it is a place of darkness, which will play on to the book that I've chosen, which is Joseph Conrad's The Heart of Darkness. The reason I chose this book was that when I was 8 or 9 years old, I had to write a book for school. And I went into my an older sibling's stash of books and found this book that had a book of a picture of someplace far away. And it happened to be Joseph Conrad's book. And I had to write a book report on it. And I would love to get my hands on that book report because as I'm reading this, 40 some years later, all I remember from the book when I was 8 or 9 was a fort out in the middle of the jungle and a river and a man living among the natives. But what I have pulled out of this book now is much different. And it's kind of interesting. Just before we came out here today, I watched the 1957 movie of The Heart of Darkness with Roddy McDowall, Boris Karloff, and Eartha Kitt. And that was quite interesting how they had interpreted the book. So if you've not read this book, I would highly recommend it. Joseph Conrad delves into the darkness that's within all of us and the humanity, the human nature to go into darkness. And when we're thrown out into these areas of wildness, how any civility that we may have had can so easily be lost. So the main character in the book is Charlie Marlowe, who is a seaman, and he has spent, several years of his early manhood out on the sea, mostly sailing in the east. He comes back to London and is staying, with family, with friends, winds up kind of getting a little restless, decides he wants to go back out into the sea. As a young man or as a child, he had been, fascinated with maps and would look at it and see all of the adventurous places where he could go. Keep in mind that this book was printed in 1899, so there were lots of still unexplored areas that he had the opportunity to go to. So the area that I'm going to read to you from in the book is before Marlowe connects with the trading company to go into the Congo, and that's where he's hoping to go. He's become fascinated by the next character, who is Mr. Kurtz, who is an ivory trader, and he has already gone into the Congo several years ago to start to collect ivory for the trading company, and has been a very good, what they call, producer for them. And so this is when Marlowe is starting to make his decision, and he's thinking about his pure of heart Buddhist concepts of life. I was thinking of very old times when the Romans first came here 1900 years ago. The other day, light came out of this river since, you say nights? Yes, but it is like a running blaze on a plain, like a flash of lightning in the clouds. We live in the flicker, may it last as long as the old earth keeps rolling. But darkness was here yesterday. Imagine the feelings of a commander of a fine, what do you call them? Trireme in the Mediterranean, ordered suddenly to the north, run overland across the Gauls in a hurry, put in a charge of one of these craft, the Legionnaires. A wonderful lot of handymen they must have been too, used to build, apparently by the hundred in a month or two. If we may believe what we read, imagine him here, the very end of the world, a sea the color of lead, a sky the color of smoke, a kind of ship about as rigid as a concertina, and going up this river with stores or orders or what you like, sandbanks, marshes, forests, savages, precious little to eat, fit for a civilized man, nothing but Thames water to drink. No Falernian wine here, no going ashore. Here and there a military camp lost in a wilderness. Like a needle in a bundle of hay, cold fog, tempests, disease, exile, and death. Death skulking in the air, in the water, in the bush. They must have been dying like flies here. Oh yes, he did it very well, too, no doubt. And without thinking much about it either, except afterwards to brag of what he had gone through in his time, perhaps. They were men enough to face the darkness, and perhaps he was cheered by keeping his eye on a chance of promotion to the fleet at Ravenna by and by. If he had good friends in Rome and survived the awful climate, or think of a decent young citizen in a toga, perhaps too much dice, you know, coming out here in the train of some prefect or tax gatherer or trader even, to mend his fortunes. Land in a swamp, march through the woods, and in some inland post feel the savagery, the utter savagery. Remember, we're talking about London here. Had closed round him. All that mysterious life of the wilderness that stirs in the forest, in the jungles, in the hearts of wild men. There's no initiation either into such mysteries. He has to live in the midst of the incomprehensible, which is also detestable. And it has a fascination too that goes to work upon him. The fascination of the abomination. You know, imagine the growing regrets, the longing to escape, the powerless disgust, the surrender, the hate. He paused. Mind, he began again, lifting one arm from the elbow, the palm of the hand outwards so that, with his legs folded before him, he had the pose of a Buddha, preaching in European clothes and without a lotus flower. Mind, none of us would ever feel exactly like this. What saves us is efficiency, the devotion to efficiency. But these chaps were not much account, really. They were no colonists. Their administration was merely a squeeze and nothing more, I suspect. They were conquerors, and for that you want only brute force. Nothing to boast of. When you have it, since your strength is just an accident arising from the weakness of others, they grabbed what they could get for the sake of what was to be got. It was just robbery, with violence, aggravated murder on a great scale, and men going at it blind, as is very proper for those who tackle a darkness. The conquest of the earth, which mostly means the taking it away from those who have different complexion or slightly flatter noses than ourselves, is not a pretty thing when you look into it too much. What redeems it is the idea only. An idea at the back of it, not a sentimental pretense, but an idea, and an unselfish belief in the idea, something you can set up and bow down before and offer a sacrifice to. He broke off. Flames glided in the river, small green flames, red flames, white flames, pursuing, overtaking, joining, crossing each other, then separating slowly or hastily. The traffic of the great city went on in the deepening night upon the sleepless river. We looked on, waiting patiently. There was nothing else to do till the end of the flood. But it was only after a long silence when he said in a hesitating voice, "I suppose you fellows remember I did once turn freshwater sailor for a bit." That we knew we were fated before the ebb began to run to hear about one of Marlowe's inconclusive experiences. And from there on, Marlowe goes in to talk about how he found the trading company, just got overcome with his interest in Mr. Kurtz and decided to go on to the Congo. And really how from the time of the Romans till the time then, and I'd say even to the time, today's time, that human nature tends to be pretty corruptible, easily corruptible. So I hope that you will take the time to read. This is a whole portfolio of Conrad's works, but I hope that you'll take the time to read The Heart of Darkness.